While the rest of college football scrambles through this chaos, Farmageddon stands tall. Matt Campbell and Chris Klieman aren't just survivors. No. They are the stability kings in this sport that's addicted to turnover with NIL, money, new things, you name it. As the coaching carousel spins faster than ever, Iowa State and Kansas State might be sitting on the two most secure thrones in the Power Four. And honestly, that might be the biggest competitive advantage that no one's talking about.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Yes, hit me with that music. It's a college crossover of Locked On Kansas State and Locked On Cyclones. Nick, every other program is panicking. Farmageddon, though, built to last. More than 30% of FBS teams change coaches this year alone. Kansas State and Iowa State just got stronger because of that. We're going to dig more into that on this episode. Before we do that, though, dive into the comment section. How many head coaches in college football today would you actually trade for Matt Campbell or Chris Kleiman? Because for me, it's not much, and we need to dig into that one. We have a loaded episode for you today on this college crossover of Locked On Kansas State and Locked On Cyclones. We're starting with the biggest hidden advantage in college football right now, coaching stability. While the rest of the sport is caught in a whirlwind and firings and new hires, I mean, really, not even just the head coaching position. Farmageddon is thriving with two of the most secure, respected coaches in the game, with Kleiman and Campbell. We'll dive into the numbers from CBS Sports' recent report, break down what it means for the Big 12 and more, and why fans in Manhattan and Ames, Nick, should feel very confident by not just week 0, not just moving forward, but the entire future of both their football programs. Then we're going to tackle the elephant in the room, college football playoff chaos, what's going on there, proposed formats, power plays, you name it. There's so much stuff to talk about and probably more Sankey lies if you really want to add it to the mix. And finally, we're going to zoom out. You and I think we probably can go big picture here, Big 12 landscape heading into the 2025 season. Who are the true contenders other than the two of us right here? What are other teams that might have a fight in the race? Which teams are flying under the radar? We'll dive into that on this show. So if you're rolling with Farmageddon this year, as Nick and I will be doing all year long, and for the record, welcome to Farmageddon Friday here on this college crossover. This will be a thing we give you all off season long. Hit that subscribe button, just like it broke the crust off the Pop-Tart bowls, like you and I did. So whether you're Team Kleiman or Campbell, Team Campbell, we got the goods hotter than the toaster on game day. Nick, I think it's your turn for the mic, and let's dig into it here. CBS Sports came out with a report that more than 30% of FBS teams changed coaches this year alone, and of course, that wasn't either of our team. Before we dig into the numbers even more, what does that tell you initially? How does that feel, knowing that you have Matt Campbell going into year 10 of your program?
When Jamie Pollard extended Matt Campbell, I made a whole show about it because that's how big of a deal it is. And then obviously TJ Otzelberger, not a part of this conversation, but his extension kind of followed in the same suit of just showing how important everything outside of football is to Iowa State. Like when you look at a couple of different metrics, I'm not across the board, but there are some metrics where I'm sure Campbell falls short of other coaches. Didn't make the top 25 in this century as far as coaches go. I believe it was the New York Times that did that ranking. I was a little upset about that just because of everything that goes beyond just the actual numbers, like developing boys into men, obviously player on the field, but off the field as well. Matt Campbell sticking around is a miracle as well because of obviously the attention he's gained from the NFL. We can dive into some of his numbers over the last 10 years. Obviously, I've got them pulled up because I think it's an important part of this conversation. But to have Matt Campbell out there on the field, I think it's the best thing you could possibly ask for right now because it is kind of like a luxury right now in college football. I think Matt Campbell said it best after the Pop-Tart Bowl win when he said there aren't a whole lot of college football teams left in this college football landscape. We've got one in Ames. That's what it is. It's just not the same as all the other programs out there. And the fact that Iowa State and Jamie Pollard and Wendy Winterstein, who is going to retire, but is probably one of the best ADs of all time, or presidents of all time, to put that trust into Matt Campbell and let him build the program and the culture that he has. Very excited for this season and what could be the next 10 plus years of Matt Campbell.
I can't get it out of my head. You said Boys the Men. I immediately go to the hit song of the 90s when you were not even probably a wink in your father's eye and talking about end of the road. This is not the end of the road for either of these two coaches. And you talk about the stats of Matt Campbell, 10 years going into his 10th season at Iowa State. 99-66 is his total record as a coach, but 64-51 while with the Cyclones, has a winning record in conference, 45-36. And something about that double-digit wins last year, Nick, that's something very important that Iowa State, and I'm sure both fan bases know very well why that's so important. But go ahead, just for the sake of your own self-esteem, why is it so important they got that double digits last year?
Well, it was the first time in Iowa State history. 133 years of playing football and still had not accomplished the double-digit wins. Iowa State did it last year. That's kind of like that big jump, right? It's kind of like stay the course, trust the process. It will jump at some point, and that's what happened last year. Obviously, 2020 and the conference championship appearance was a big deal too, but Brock Purdy and that whole thing. But last year, it felt like there was that spike. And you've got me on the history train here, so I want to throw this out there. I don't know if anyone knows this, especially your K-Staters out there. Iowa State had 3 bowl wins before Matt Campbell. They now have 6. So that means they have 3 post Matt Campbell. How many coaches were before Matt Campbell? I mean, I just want to throw that out there. Just as far as a little history nugget for you, that's one of my favorites.
Yeah, and I mean, the coach just right before him, I mean, when you're going from Paul Rhodes to Matt Campbell here, you're talking a lot of, just impressive things right off the bat. And the flip side here, you went from Rhodes to Campbell. We went from Snyder to Chris Kleiman. We went from arguably one of the best college coaches in the game, period, to Chris Kleiman. And you would think that there would be some sort of like push off or some sort of, fall. Those are some big shoes to fill. I think Chris Kleiman's done an excellent job being there at Kansas State. I think he is the perfect person for the job in Manhattan. He's entering his 8th year as the coach of the Wildcats, and he's only had one down year, and that was 2020. And I think we can all just forget about that year anyways. If you take that year out, which I think the entire world would love to do that anyways, you're looking at a winning season every single year. 8-5, 8-5, 10-4, 9-4, and of course 9-4 last year. You have 3 wins also in bowl games, just like Matt Campbell. And you have 2 bowl games wins in a row with the Pop-Tart 2 years ago. We got it before you did, for the record. And the Rape Bowl last year against Rutgers. 9-4 and 9-4 the last 2 years, though, I think isn't going to cut it moving forward for Kansas State. There's just so much high optimistic views that you got to get to double digits, something that you just found out for the first time, Nick. Does Matt Campbell have to get double digits yet again because the expectations have now been set for this program after it not doing it for so long? Now, is it one of those things where you got to go back to back, or it's just a one-off kind of blunder?
I think he's got to do it for himself. I don't think he needs to do it for any sort of outside kind of noise, if you will. I think he needs to kind of show that he's able to maintain this level of consistency to prove this. What I mean for himself is like for his legacy, not for him to keep his job. Does that make sense? It's like, it doesn't really matter whether or not he gets to 10 wins in the grand scheme of things. It's just how everyone perceives him, because they'll say, oh, it was just one good year. Like, I don't think he cares, and I don't think that anybody of importance at Iowa State cares if it was one flash in the pan because of everything he's done in the past. So from that perspective, I would say, no, it doesn't matter. But there is the element of the college football playoffs. I think Iowa State's probably going to have to be really, really close to that 10-win kind of mark, because obviously Kansas State going to be in that conversation. You obviously mentioned how good Kansas State's been in the past. That's why I love this Farmageddon rivalry, because you never know exactly what's going to happen. It feels pretty tight a year in and year out.
In the sea of chaos, the Farmageddon rivalry is college football's rock, in my opinion, is what's turning into with Kleiman and Campbell, and this retention that we both saw in the transfer portal this past season as well. Everyone's chasing stability. We already have it, and that is huge right now. And as a whole, the Big 12 conference actually has seen a lot of stability, but it's not all of Big 12. There has been a few teams that have had victims. Obviously, UCF just bringing Scott Frost back, West Virginia bringing Rich Rod back as just a couple examples. But overall, I mentioned the whole 30 coaches last year that moved on. Over the last 2 years, according to the report from CBS Sports, 61 programs in the FBS changed head coaches over the past 2 seasons. That represents, quote, an incredible 44.9% of FBS teams. You're talking about over the last 2 years, almost half the head coaches in FBS are no longer the head coach of that program. Campbell's been there for 10 years. Kleiman's been there for 8. We're talking about some historic runs, something that you haven't seen in this new chaotic world with NIL, transfer portal, this whole rev share that's going to change things. And you have the stability standing tall, Nick. It is a great, great feeling to be part of these such amazing programs.
It's rare. It's rare nowadays. And we got to take it, for what it's worth. Don't undersell it right now. We got to enjoy it while we've got it, because who knows, once you move on once, we could be going down a waterfall. Let's enjoy Campbell and Kleiman while we can.
And these are not only just great programs, they're winning programs. And speaking of winning programs, they both have the opportunity to get to the college football playoffs in 2025 and beyond. And speaking of that beyond portion, there is a lot more drama when it comes to the college football playoff saga that continues to be held over these spring meetings between the Big 12, SEC, ACC, you name it. Let's talk about that next as we continue on this college crossover of Locked On Kansas State and Locked On Cyclones. But first, Nick, we got to talk to you about FanDuel because the NBA playoffs are in full swing. Ty Halliburton couldn't close the deal. He couldn't do it. They're going to force a game 6. It's getting tight. Can he make that happen? Because with FanDuel, every night delivers highlight-worthy performances. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live. Player props, performance trends, same-game parlays. I mean, Brunson was pretty great the other night. He looked real good to keep that team in there. I mean, I don't know. Team McAfee, Team Ben Stiller, what are you doing here, right? There's a lot of things going on. Fans have way more ways to play smart and win big. I mean, we're even talking more of win big with these type of promos we're seeing from the crowd, as we mentioned. So lots of things with Halliburton. Can he get it done in game 6, Nick?
Oh, yeah. Favorites at home. Send them to the championship.
Send him to the chip. Send him to the chip. Well, we're going to see what happens with that. NBA Finals just around the corner. Who will face the Oklahoma City Thunder? FanDuel has you covered every step of the way. If you're new to FanDuel, it's a perfect time to sign up. You head to FanDuel.com, place your first $5 bet. If that bet wins, guess what, Nick? $200 in bonus bets. So make every moment count with FanDuel, the official partner of the NBA. What a world we live in when we're talking Kansas State and Iowa State being the stability of college football. No surprise to you and I here on this Farmageddon Friday of Locked On College Crossover, Locked On Kansas State, and Locked On Cyclones. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, because I tell you what, folks, we are one of the top premier things. We're bringing it to you every single day, your team every day. This is a show built for the Big 12 fans who know real football, real rivalries, and real stability. And speaking of real rivalries and real power conferences, I don't want to hear none of this P2 no more. The Power 4 conferences, including the Big 12, is talking more of this college football playoff drama. And it continues on here with this, what format will be chosen heading into 2026. We know there's new rules changing in 2025. This year, we're going to get straight seeding. No longer are we going to get conference winners getting the automatic bye. Sorry, Boise State, you will no longer get that bye if you win the Mountain West Conference. That's unfortunate because I think you deserved it personally, and I think Arizona State did as well. Rather no here nor there. Straight seeding is what's going to happen in 2025. But moving into 2026, Nick, are we going to get 12 teams? Is it going to move to 16? And what type of format is it going to be? We always hear about these auto bids with the SEC crying for 4 because they think they deserve it. And they want to have their 4 automatic bids, because if they don't get them automatically bid to them, then they might not make it in, and then we'll have this same entire crying fit just like we're having right now. For the record, I think we are in this boat right now, and I actually saw a really funny tweet. I think it was Mike Golick Jr. actually that said it, if I remember correctly, that said, why are we doing all of this stuff? Because Alabama just missed the playoffs, and now we're burning 1,000 ships because of it. And it's all because that Alabama missed the playoffs. We had this huge debate. Sankey's got to go to bat for his boy. Little Bama boys. That's exactly what's going on there. I don't get it. I don't understand. But either way, Brett Yormark put out his new format for 5-7 or 5-11, depending on expansion. I like that one better. You still get the automatic bids for conference winners. They might not get the buys, but you still reward for winning your conference, the top 5 conference winners, and then 11 at-large bids. What's your thoughts on that format?
I think it's the best format. There are some question marks. I talked about this yesterday on my show. As far as what will happen, right? Let's talk with what will happen first, just really quickly, because I don't think the 5'11 is going to get a whole lot of consideration. There were some tweets from Ross Dellinger that said that it's in there as kind of that top consideration, but it was really only ahead of one that was ridiculous, a 4-4-3-3-1 plus one model. And to me, at 4-4-3-3-1, those are all automatic qualifiers. And then the one could be Notre Dame if they're in the top 16. So you have a fully automatic qualified 16-team playoff. I don't think that's even worth considering. So, okay, yeah, it beat out some ridiculous model. That's why I take that with a grain of salt. And the reason I say that is because it comes down to the SEC wanting to play 9 conference games, but they're only going to play 9 conference games if they're guaranteed more than one auto bid into the playoff. And they want to play these extra conference games because that's going to result in a partnership with the Big Ten, a scheduling agreement. And then with the auto bids, they're going to play play-in games into the playoff. All of this means more money for the SEC. That's what it comes down to. And yeah, there was some quotes being thrown around, namely, shoot, I'm blanking on the Big 12's. Who is it? It's not Brett Yormark. Is it?
The Big 12? Brett Yormark, yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's what I had in my brain. Brett Yormark basically said, we're going to play this even if we don't get 2 teams in because we have to earn it. Like, yeah, that's kind of the difference in different in mindset between the Big 12 and the SEC. Now, all of that said, I don't know if this is going to go through or not, but I do like the 5+11 a lot. I think it's the best for college football as a whole. Like, if you can just zoom out to space, take a peek at the Great Wall of China, and then direct your attention over to any American college football stadium, which it probably wouldn't be hard to find, I think on that level, it is best for college football. But from the Big 12 standpoint, the question is how many teams get in guaranteed. Well, probably less. Well, guaranteed, it's definitely less. But over the course of the years, it's probably less. And what does that mean from a financial standpoint in a situation where money is becoming more and more important? It's pay to play, $20.5 million. You know, it's how are we going to come up with this money? Iowa State AD Jamie Pollard just said, you know, a couple weeks ago, and kind of keeps reiterating how much trouble Iowa State's going to be in down the line once we run out of our reserve. There's a lot of question marks there, but I do think at a macro level, I love the 5+11 format or whatever it ends up being. If it's 14 or 16 teams, I know it'll expand, but I don't know what to what number.
Yeah, you got to have fairness, in my opinion. And I think if you gave the Big Ten and SEC, and whether your argument is that those are the better conferences, if that's what you want to say, if you want to get on this show and listen to us and think that you're on here. I saw a couple Alabama comments on my show the other day coming in and trying to be trolls. And let me just say, if that's what you're trying to do, to me, it shows you're scared. You're absolutely scared. You don't get rewarded. That's not a reward. Just get granted bids. You have to still earn it. And if you think you're one of the top 16 teams, then you should have no problem with this 5-11 model. And I think even Notre Dame is included in that. If Notre Dame is seen as a top 16 in the country, if you choose not to be in a conference, then your only shot is being a top 16 in the country. It happened for you last year. It worked just fine for you last season, and you made it to the national championship. So now you have even more of an opportunity to do so because you have 11 spots to do that instead of just 7 that you really had just last year, right? So I like that. And to add on to what you just said, I'll give you the exact quote of what Brett Yormark said the other day, because I love this quote and it's worth repeating. And he said about his being strongly behind the 5-11 college football playoff format. He said, and that's okay if he doesn't get the 2 bids automatically, because we've got to earn it on the field. I tell my room, you're rewarded when you perform at the highest level. The SEC would never say that. They would never say that. They instead just want to say, we deserve to be there because we have 3 letters in our name. And that's just, or something like that. I don't know.
We got a patch on our shoulder.
I don't get it. I don't get it. Brett Yormark is doing the exact perfect thing for his program. And I understand Sankey's batting for his boys. I get what he is trying to do. He's got to have his job. He's got to force it. But at the end of the day, if you want to go ahead and bring back that quote that Sankey likes to continue and keep talking about with the good of the game, folks, the good of the game is making sure every single college football program in America, not just the 16, 18 teams or whatever in the Big 10 and the certain amount of teams in the SEC, divisions or not, have a chance to make it in. And I'm not even talking Power 4 here. If we have multiple at-large teams in the G5, like let's just say Boise State and another team like, I don't know, UTSA.
UNLV. Yeah,
UNLV.
Any of them.
Yeah, if they can find a way to be an at-large bid, even if they don't win their conference, then they deserve to be there as well. Or if they both win their conference, if one wins the Mountain West and one wins the American, and they're both deserving to be a top 16 seed, what if they both go 12-0?
Yeah.
Then that deserves to be a spot there. You didn't really get that opportunity with what the playoffs are now. So, no, I don't want those auto bids. And even that means that there's an opportunity that the Big 12 only gets one team in, because in the future, there could be a chance where the Big 12 gets 3 or 4 in, and the SEC might only get 2. You don't give away bids. You got to earn them year in and year out, Nick.
Well, I think to go back to that quote from Sankey talking about it's for the good of the game. Is it for the good of the game or for the good of the SEC? That's my question. I don't know how that's true. I'm not going to say that he's a liar, but I'm not going to not say it because I don't know what he's targeting there. To me, that doesn't sound, it sounds like you're doing what's best for the SEC. You're doing what's best to get a lot of money. You're not doing what's best for the love of the game. To me, that's the mindset of the Big 12 versus the SEC for you. That's the brand of the Big 12 versus the SEC. When you look at it from this scale, like I agree. I definitely think it should be an earned situation. That's what it is to get on the field. You earn your way onto the field. Why not earn your way into the playoff?
Yep. Fear mongering. That's what's happening here. He's called out the ACC and the Big 12 for having joint statements that never happened. He's called out.
He's mad that we proposed 5+11.
Right. He's mad that happened because he's not following suit. He's being a bully and he's trying to have a power play here, and it's just not working here. And he's not happy that he can't take his ball and go home with his 4 automatic bids. That's what's happening right now. Will it happen in the future? I mean, we don't know, but I will say for the best of the game, 5+11, I think is the best for everything. And if I am the ACC, the Big 12, and the rest of the G5s, plus Notre Dame as well. And if you want to put UConn in the mix, put UConn there because they're an independent as well. And although they'll never probably see the light of day when it comes to the college football playoffs while being an independent, you might as well put them in the conversation just for the sake of this. I mean, if it's all of them against the SEC and then assume the Big 10 is going to be there as well, because if they're getting 4 auto bids, why would they be against it? Mm-hmm. You have to go ahead and move to this 5-11 format. You absolutely have to make that happen. All right, let's switch it up. Let's talk this Big 12 outlook. Let's talk about what is going to happen for the future of the Big 12 this season. Can they get 2 teams in the college football playoffs? Who's your favorite and who's maybe flying under the radar? That's not Kansas State and the Cyclones. We'll do that to wrap up this special Locked On College crossover of Locked On Cyclones and Locked On Kansas State. I'll tell you what, these type of conversations get me fired up, man. I could just like run through a wall after having some of these conversations with Brett Yormark talking some of this stuff and saying, yeah, we made sure that we had these bids and we had this proposal, and Sankey with his lies and Sankey threatening his own job, saying if he doesn't get a format, he'll probably get fired. Good. He's becoming a villain. Either way, let's talk Big 12 here. Obviously, the Big 12, you never know what's going to happen. And that's exactly why you shouldn't have auto bids. The Big 12 is a perfect example for that, because you can have a team like Arizona State, who's predicted to finish last, win the whole dang thing. I mean, you're not hearing that from the SEC. You're not predicting Mississippi State to win the whole dang thing, or predicting them last and think they're going to win the whole thing. You're not predicting Rutgers at the very bottom of the Big 10 predict last, then they win the whole thing. The Big 12 is the best conference from top to bottom. Prove me otherwise, you can't. And in Greg Sankey's little pamphlet called the Gauntlet, the regular season gauntlet that he put out the other day, is not going to help his case either. Speaking of the Big 12, though, it's going to be a fun season. It's going to be a really fun season. When I look at the schedule, I look at the schedule every single day when I'm trying to have these conversations with either you or another host or just by myself, having a dialogue with the fans and talking here on Locked On Kansas State for myself. I always have a new idea or a new outlook or opinion, because you just never know. Like lately, one of the under the radar teams that I continue to see get brought up is Baylor. Baylor continues to be this team that man, do they have a really good quarterback in Sawyer Robertson? Can he lead the charge? Can he help Dave Aranda stay out of the hot seat? There's a lot of big questions going on. And then, of course, TCU. I think a lot of people are sleeping on TCU as well. So overall, what's your thoughts right now? And not talking Cyclones or Kansas State, because I think our fans know exactly how we feel about our teams going in. I think we both think we're not fighting for the Pop-Tart Bowl this year, but maybe both of us could be fighting in week 0 and also for Dr. Pepper towards the end of the season. Who knows? We might face each other twice this year. But who do you think is the biggest threat other than the two of us that might be flying under the radar this season?
You went on a little run there, and you just boom, both of my picks, Baylor and TCU. I was like, okay, Baylor, yeah, I could see how that would be one people would talk about. TCU comes out of your mouth. I'm like, okay, I've got nothing. What are we doing? That's crazy. I talked about Alec Bussey, kind of talked about the top 5 most important games for Iowa State next year. And he had a bunch of good games on there. I think every game is important for Iowa State, and a lot of it comes down to like record and timing and all this and that. But a team that he didn't have on his list that I did was TCU. I think Josh Hoover and the Horned Frogs could make some big noise. I actually, they're on my radar for sure. Baylor, obviously, you talk about Sawyer Robinson, like big name there. Arizona State returning so many players could be a big deal. BYU would be on my list, but I'm not sure what's going on there yet. We've got to kind of get some confirmation. West Virginia on my list just because of such high turnover. Rich Rod back in town. Like maybe it's a completely different culture, completely different team.
Well, you can't have the TikTok dances, so that's a culture change.
True. Is that better? Or is that worse? I don't even know what the dances are, but I do know this. The Big 12, I can go through almost every single one of these teams and come up with a reason why they have a shot. And that I don't think you can say about a lot of other conferences. And I don't want to get too far off track here, but that's what makes the Big 12 the best conference, in my opinion. Like, even if I wasn't an Iowa State grad, an Iowa State fan, like just a complete homer, which I am, and I've been called that, and I totally own it. I love it. Even if I wasn't, the Big 12 has it's the most parity. It's the most chaos. Who had Arizona and Kansas just ripping BYU to shreds last year, forcing them to play in the Alamo Bowl and just dominate Colorado, but it took them out. And then Iowa State falls into it after Kansas kind of ruined their season. It was like, what is happening? Like, that is the Big 12 for you. And that's why I can literally go through here and pick just about any team. I will say Arizona is one that I'm not consistently looking at. If I had to pick one team that I'm not super high on, but I mean, I could look at almost every one of these teams and say, there's a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. You never know. And that's what makes it so great.
Well, great. Let me throw you on the spot then to end this show, because I feel like that's a fun way to end this Farmageddon Friday. You spoke of Arizona. Well, they finished second to last in the Big 12 last year. Let's take the bottom 6. Cincinnati finished 3-6 in the conference. They were 5-7. Houston, same 3-6, but they were 4-8 on the year. Utah, 5-7 on the year, 2-7 in the conference. UCF fired Gus Malzahn. They finished 4-8, 2-7 in the conference. Arizona 4-8, 2-7 in the conference. And Oklahoma State didn't win a single game in the Big 12 last year. They did beat Arkansas, though. So if you're still listening, SEC fans, I'm letting you know. And they finished 3-9. Out of those 6 teams, which one has the best shot in finishing in the top 6 this season?
You know, I will say I was really high on Oklahoma State prior to the season last year, and it was literally only because of the QR codes on the helmets. And then I believe they were told they couldn't do that, and that's why they had such a bad season. Yeah, I think it was like, it's like one of those things where you walk into the party and you're feeling all good, and then someone's wearing like the exact same outfit as you, and everyone like notices, and it's this big thing, and you lose all your mojo. I think that's what happened to Oklahoma State. So I'm going to take them to be the team. I know it doesn't make a lot of sense, but like, you can't really argue with me because it's the Big 12, right? So, I mean, just looking at their schedule here, it's not impossible. They do have a tough schedule. Like, I'm not going to lie. It is a tough one. Like Baylor, obviously Iowa State, K-State in there. I think Texas Tech's going to be really good this year. But I mean, there's some teams they can beat too. And it only takes, 4 quarters to come away with a win over a better team. And then you just do it again. And then you do it again. And then you do it again. You don't have to you don't have to win all 16. You just need to win each a set of 4. So is it a wild pick? Yeah. But I also think that maybe if they're not expecting the QR codes, they're going to do a little better this year.
Ooh, okay. So QR codes might be out of it. Okay, understood. Ollie Gordon, losing him might be tough as well. And who knows if Mike Gundy, is he still a man? Is he still 40? That's the biggest question that the Big 12 is going to have to answer. I want to say Utah as the team for me with those 6, but when you look at that schedule, man, I mean, they face every single team that you think is going to be good this season for the most part. I mean, they have Texas Tech, they have Arizona State, BYU. I mean, the only team they don't play that's towards the top is you guys, and they play Baylor on the road. They play us, and then who knows what Colorado is going to be. So, yeah, I guess I'll lean towards Utah, but man, that schedule is tough. But as you mentioned, anything can happen in the world of the Big 12, and hopefully in the future we'll see 5-11 format, because I think 9 years out of 10, Nick, that we would see at least 2 teams in the Big 12 with that format regardless. We don't need auto bids for that to happen. And I think there'd be plenty of times where you get 3, because I do think that there's going to come a time, especially when the conferences all align and go to 9 conference games or whatever. Looking at you, SEC, surprise, surprise, being the odd duck. And then I think you'll get some true type of fairness. Will fairness be a word that finally matches with college football? Well, that'll be the biggest question we all have.
I don't know. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't know if that'll ever happen, just because of the mindset difference between the SEC and all these other conferences. But I will say, I mean, 5 + 11 just makes a lot of sense. I'll round it out on that. I don't even need to elaborate. You said it perfectly. Give me 5 + 11. I believe in the Big 12, and I believe in college football. I think that's where college football is going to thrive.
Thanks for listening to this special Farmageddon Friday Locked On College crossover for Kansas State and Iowa State. If you haven't already, click that subscribe button over on Locked On Kansas State. We're close to 1,000 subscribers. I know you are too on Locked On Cyclones. Hey, for Locked On Kansas State, I'm making a goal to hit 1,000 by July 4th, and I think we should make the same goal for you, Nick, as well. July 4th. I mean, let freedom ring, baby. Let freedom ring with that 1K milestone. That's what I'm talking about. All right. That's where we're ending this on this episode today. Thanks, everyone. Please like the video. Please subscribe. And this has been a Locked On College crossover of Locked On Cyclones and Locked On Kansas State.